talk today about the first time I went on a trip to Florida with my grandparents. And to back up just a few days, I was in the first grade, getting ready to go to school, and my grandparents came over to tell me and my mother and my sister goodbye, that they were going on this 2-week trip. And when I found out that they were leaving, I was upset and I wanted to go, and I started crying, and my grandmother said, well, why can't he go? And my mother said, well, he's in school, and I'm not sure that they would let him out of school. And so my grandmother said, well, let's go ask. So we all got in the car and drove down to the school, and my first grade teacher, Mrs. Ings, said, well, let's go talk to the principal about this. The principal was an older gentleman. I cannot recall his name at the present, but he was an old, distinguished-looking man with white hair, and he always wore a suit. So he was just kind of one of those very formal people. And we went in to talk to him, and he wanted to hear the story of why I wanted to go to Florida. And I told him, well, my grandparents were going, and I just felt like I needed to go with them, and I just wanted to do that. And that was just, I mean, it was just the desire that I had very strong at that point. And so he listened to me, and he looked at my mother, and he said something I'll never forget. He said, you know what, Wesley will learn more in 2 weeks of being with his grandparents than he's going to learn in 2 weeks of being at school. So I suggested he goes. So I was so happy. We went home, and I quickly packed my bags, and we got in the car and drove. And Papa had this old, I don't even remember what kind of car it was, but it was a small car. So he had picked a bunch of fruit that he was taking with him to Mama's sisters. She had 2 sisters living together down in Florida, and we were taking all this fruit down there. And so I was, as we drove along, I would steal a peach or a pear or something and eat it while they weren't looking. And that's how I basically kept myself alive in the back of that car, and entertained was by eating the fruit. And I couldn't eat too much because I didn't know that I had been eating it. So we drove down there. It took a long time because Papa infamously drove very slow. I mean, the speed limit would be 60, he'd be driving 40. And people would come behind us and they honk at us all the time to try to get him to go faster, and he would not go faster. He would go, I think 40 miles an hour is the fastest I ever saw him going on any road. So we took this long trip to go down there, and I can't remember if it was on the way down or on the way back, but we decided to stop at the ocean and go to one of these places where they, it's kind of like a Disneyland, but they have a bunch of boats, and they take you riding out on the ocean, and so we were basically going to this place. It was this park, and they sold these captain's hats, these Navy captain's hats, and I remember they bought me one, and I had a picture of me wearing that darn hat somewhere, and I haven't seen it for years, so I don't know who wound up with it. When Mama and Papa died, they had all their photographs in a huge suitcase, and at the end of when they died, one of the sisters, I think Aunt Tot, came and got all the pictures, and we never saw them ever again, because that was one of my favorite things, was going to her house when I was a little kid and getting that suitcase out and opening it up and looking at all the old pictures they'd taken all their lives. So anyhow, that's probably where that picture wound up, but I never saw it again. But I do remember it very vividly, because I looked at it many times when I go to her house. So we went down to Florida, and I remember it being hot and humid. These people lived on a pig farm. They raised pigs, and so I remember the pigs. They would raise them and they sell them to meat markets and stuff, and so these pigs were everywhere in this farm. So me and my cousin, I guess he was my cousin. I can't remember his name now, but he was about my age. We played well together, and we would run out, and I remember going out and having some kind of, I guess it was some kind of plant that was hollow in the inside, and so we cut them off and we made us some plant boots out of them. We put them on our legs, and they would fit us nicely, and we walk around these stupid boots. I don't know if it was a palm tree or something, but it was something that we could actually, was skinny enough for us to put on and hold. So we played well together. It was summertime, so I was in school, and I had to get permission to get out of school, so I don't know what this kid, I think he was my age or maybe a year older, maybe a year younger. But he was there every day that we stayed there, and he and I played together, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me. I do remember when I got home, I wrote him a letter, and he wrote me back, and we wrote each other for a few months probably, and I lost contact with him, and I never was able to find him again, and I can't even remember his name, but we had lots of fun together. On one occasion, we wanted to go out on the ocean, and these people that we're related to had a big boat. Had a big, nice big motor on it, and so we went out on the ocean, and I was scared to death because the water has always frightened me. I never really liked getting in the water, especially in the ocean, because you couldn't see what was at the bottom, and I thought there were sharks out there, which there were, and all kind of critters and animals that were dangerous to people, and so I was afraid, and I did not want to get in the water, but I didn't mind riding a boat. We rode this boat out there. They took us along out there and showed us many areas, and we had an enjoyable time. But I remember when we got home, it was exciting. I was happy to be home because it scared me to death. So we played a lot, and we'd go out and help them feed their hogs, and visited a lot. Mama and Papa, Mama especially was so happy to be there to see her sisters. And I don't really recall Papa being around much. I don't know what he was doing, but he and I didn't see him much because we were just playing. I was playing with my little cousin in there, and I remember going home in the car, and it was a long, long drive because again, Papa drove so slow. It was not even funny. People were honking at us all the time because we were driving so slow on the interstate. And but we had a good time. I had a great time with my cousins. So that was those are my memories of my trip to Florida as a young boy. So all I have, Brian.